Investigators now say they are processing 5 to 10,000 hours of video in the search for Nancy Guthrie. You heard me right. 5 to 10,000 hours of video. Let that sink in. That is a lot of hours of video, and every single minute, according to reports, has to be first watched by a human being before it can ever be enhanced or manipulated by any sort of AI. The case clearly not going cold and not for a long time. Rather, the case right now is drowning in data.
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, SDS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. Do not call it a show. Do not call it a podcast. Do not call Uncle Phil Waters anything other than Detective Phil Waters, Mr. Waters, Uncle Waters, Sir Waters, but I was reprimanded by him for referring to him just by his last name. I thought I was an honorary law enforcement official, and I know Leos like to call themselves by last names, but Uncle Phil made it abundantly clear, not me. I am not allowed to call him just by his last name. So from now on, it will be Detective Waters and Special Agent Scott Duffy. They're both here right now. Agent Scott Duffy still bundled up there because he lives in the Commonwealth, and it is spring's coming. Spring's rolling around in just a few. And then you've got Detective Phil Waters, who's investigated over 400 homicides. That's a lot of homicides. And before we even get cracking here on a Friday, every last Friday, you're going to get these fellas right here. And the first 3 Fridays, you'll get Karm. So we've got a beautiful balance. It's only taken us about a year to figure out this new schedule, but we've finally done it. And here we go, as the great Detective Phil Waters likes to say. We are entering day 27 in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. And for full disclosure, these guys are sick of me, and I have a call right at 3:15. So this will not be the typical 9-hour marathon podcast that we are all accustomed to, but we will be done in an hour and 14 minutes. Nancy Guthrie, Scott Duffy, you have yet to be on. You've been a busy man regarding this case. The Netherlands is in the house. I was just in Iceland, just a bucket list trip, absolutely amazing, and a lot of Nederlanders there, otherwise known as Dutch people. 45 degrees today in PA. That is why Scott Duffy is huddled up. It's still February, by the way. One of the coldest times that I ever experienced was covering the Boston Marathon bombing trial in Boston in April. It was freezing. For some weird reason, I was thinking about that, dude, the Tsarnaev brothers, while I was in Iceland, of all people. Oh, I know why. Because the architecture in some places, it's very austere. It's like cementish. And I turned to the COE and I said, this kind of looks like the Supermax prison. And then it made me think of the Tsarnaev brother who survived. And that kid is spending the rest of his life living in a cement box. And it just hit me in that moment that that's got to be an awful life. So there you go. Day 27 of Nancy Guthrie and Scott Duffy, yet to get your take. Now, a lot of retired law enforcement like yourself, and this includes Detective Waters, believe that this is not like a real abduction at its core, that it was something else, potentially something like a home invasion gone bad, burglary gone bad. Do you have a theory on this case 27 days in, Scott Duffy? Any kind of theory you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think a couple of theories. It's at this point, I think it's ruling out, right? With what the information that we have, barring some secret that's held close to the vest and says otherwise, I would rule out kidnapping for ransom. It's just, I think the letters that have been sent around, especially to TMZ, are bogus. And they were meant to exploit and try to get something. So check that off. So I guess I would be on the fence of, is this a crime gone bad? In other words, they intended to do something else and ended up it going horribly wrong. And they went in to go steal something. They went in to home invade. They went in to do whatever whoever they is, one or more. I personally believe it's more than one. That then they came across Miss Guthrie in a way that it did not end well for her. And then instead of doing what happens when a lot of these things go bad, as I, in my drug world, have seen home invasions go bad, and they just leave you there. So that's where an anomaly takes place as to why if they hurt her or done worse to have killed her, why take her from the area? Perhaps to hide some sort of evidence that was inexplicably on the body. So that's one thing. And then the other is she's targeted. Again, for whatever reason, specifically to go after something big in the house or to go after her to get at somebody else. So I could go 50-50, I think, with those two.
And let me ask you, I mean, you sort of just implied in your answer, but in your heart of hearts, is there a possibility she's still with us right now, or is your heart and your police and law enforcement instinct telling you no way, she's not here anymore?
I would never say no way, because I've always said hope is eternal. And when I've been on air, I was always very leery to say anything with regards to, is she with us or not? However, I think especially, and I do believe law enforcement has been very honest with the Guthrie family. I think they've had those discussions and said, expect the worst, hope for the best. So, but with the last video, we see Savannah Guthrie kind of acknowledging that, kind of accepting that, and having gone public with that, I would agree that something bad happened, and it was early on in this home invasion.
So thank you for that, Scott. And so last night we did a show about this, and there was video that broke. We'll get to that in a moment, but Phil Waters, some other news revolving around this is NBC. Kelly O'Donnell, who's a very long time correspondent at NBC, has been there like 30 years. She's been there since I was a fledgling producer in 1996. So she's been there a while. She tweeted out and has reporting that according to a federal official, a source that she has, the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Office have, quote unquote, amassed 5,000 to 10,000 hours of video that is being processed. But the key detail, she points out, is that each video must first be reviewed in real time by an investigator, and that there's no AI shortcut at the start, no magical, quote unquote, enhancement button. My question, Phil Waters, 5,000 to 10,000 hours of video seems like a hell of a lot of video. If you think about pulling surveillance from, let's say, Walmart or 7-Eleven, how many people do you need to do that? And where is this video coming from, do you think?
Well, I guess we're being the public is now starting to get a little information about the enormity of the digital evidence in this particular investigation. And I'm sure Scott has too. I have sat in front of monitors and watched hours and hours of video just to find 1 minute of what I needed. And it is tedious. It is mind-numbing. And I don't know how many folks that they've got that are actually assigned to this endeavor. I would imagine it's as many as Pima County can provide and the FBI. So it is a time-consuming task. And there's only one way to do it. And I think what you already said that what's her name, Kelly?
Yeah, Kelly O'Donnell.
Kelly O'Donnell, that AI, it's not something AI can do. This is something that detectives have to sit down and watch and find that moment that they're looking for. So it takes time. And I've been saying that from the very beginning of this, especially when we've got this, and we don't know where all this digital information is coming from. I'm assuming it may be there may be stuff coming from Walmart. There may be stuff coming from all the different cameras around the neighborhood, the camera that's at Ms. Guthrie's home, but all of this and video at other locations around the home. And so I would say this is an indicator that the detectives and the agents are doing their due diligence, and they're going around and they're scooping up every bit of video, digital surveillance evidence that they can find. And now here we are. We've got it. We're having to go through it all.
Yeah. Portugal's in the house. Malta's in the house. This is why I say, do not call my show a podcast or a show. Call it a global phenomenon. We've got over 50 countries. Who knows? By now we could have 350 countries, even though I think there's only who knows how many countries there are in the world, STS Nation. Please let me know without Googling, without
193, right? 193, 194, something like that.
Well, we've got if there's whatever it is, 193, we've got at least 217 countries in our community. But let me know how many countries, everybody. And look at this. Costa, Spain is in the house again. Why you don't call 290? Someone said 290. I think it is 193. Is I think Uncle Phil is accurate, more accurate there. Scott Duffy. So, a few things regarding your old agency. Number one, apparently boots on the ground agents have been kind of relocated to the main Arizona office, which is Phoenix. Let's start there. Is that raise any eyebrows? Do they need to be walking the ground in Tucson at this point, or can they be doing a lot of the work from this Phoenix office in Arizona?
Yeah. Yes to all the above. So I don't know how many agents per se are in Tucson, which would be a resident agency of Phoenix. So that's my belief. And then the amount of agents, and not just agents, but all the support. And what I mean by support, the analysts, the evidence response team, which are a combination of anybody in the FBI that wants to be on that team, to include all your technical assistants, your FBI laboratory assistants. So they descended upon Tucson, and specifically around Nancy's home. And now between running down streets and trying to collect gloves as far as, a mile, 2 miles, at some point that has to end, where they feel like, okay, we've run out of leads to run and gun and hit everything we can. So now you're going to bring those agents back. And my belief is the analysts, those doing the support work, those who are looking at video, you can look at video anywhere. So they have probably taken that video and are looking at it from their desktops and so forth. And that, as Phil has described it, is so tedious and so arduous in the sense that you don't even know what you're looking for. Other than the images that we have seen, you don't have a car description. So every car that passes by a Ring camera is a suspect car. And just the amount of work. For example, this individual that we've seen, whether it be one or two, at Miss Guthrie's house on the Nest doorbell, you just remove the outer clothing and you could be in, a convenience store half mile down, right before, right after. That's your suspect, but you don't know. So it ultimately will, hey, all that video has to be saved. So that way, when they do finally identify somebody, then they can backtrack and go through that and to say, hey, can we track now the person who we now know is our main suspect? So it's a lot, and you do not need that many personnel physically there if the leads of covering, walking, gathering, collecting is done.
Mm. And to Phil Waters' point, well, I mean, I know they're going to sit there, and I'm sure they're going to have agents looking at the video, correct? At this 5 to 10,000 hours of video, I'm sure, Scott, that the FBI will be involved in that as well.
I would imagine, because you're talking, as Phil said, you're looking at it real time. So that's 10,000 hours, and a couple people are not going to be able to get through that. So I can easily see several hundred being involved to try to look for something that's going to give them a lead.
By the way, how, like, roughly, I don't know, you probably don't know the number off the top of your head, but when you talk about like a FBI office in Phoenix, which is, which is the Arizona office, how many agents work at an office like that? How many are employed in Arizona?
Yeah, I didn't Google it, and I've dealt with the Phoenix office a couple of different times. I can tell you this. Let's put it into what I do know between Baltimore and Philadelphia, which would be considered your headquarters cities. Phoenix would be a headquarters city. So Baltimore back, late 90s through early 2000, mid 2000, of course, when I left, between all the offices, you're at 180 to 2.25. Philadelphia agent wise, you're hovering in the mid 2s to low 3s. And then, of course, you add all your analysts and your support personnel, which can easily double, triple that number. So Phoenix, I don't think is considered a large office, and so thereby considerably less.
That's still a good amount, I would say. The final question for you before we get back to Phil Waters, what have you made? And we've had Pima County law enforcement on from the sheriff's department. They don't have very nice, not that they're not nice. They're not very complimentary of the sheriff there, Chris Nanos. He seems to have a lot of people that are not too fond of him. And I don't think the FBI is too fond of him at this point, because he seems to be like boxing them out, to use a basketball analogy. How problematic is it that he does not like to play kindly in the sandbox with his FBI cohorts? Is that problematic?
Sure, it's problematic. And I think the years that we have been together, the three of us, where Phil and I have always been extremely hesitant to say something negative against a law enforcement procedure and investigation. Why? Because we know the pitfalls, whether somebody's new or this or that, your leadership, etc. But when it's blatant, of course, you call it out. And so I was very hesitant to call out the sheriff, and hearing that there's some rumblings and the lack of partnership, hoping that, as Phil has said often, in that the powers that be, that is the investigators, the detectives, the agents, the ground, who are being shielded, hopefully by leadership, that they're working well together, seamlessly, sharing information. That's still my hope. However, especially when you have people from the inside that have said, hey, this is historical, in the sense that this guy, that being the sheriff, this is what he's done and practices and so forth, then rumor becomes, pretty much based in reality of facts. With that being said, I would hope that the sheriff would put aside anything that's personal. And that's a personal problem too. So I would hope they would put aside that to say, we'll take all the help we can get. Let's have an established who's the lead. By all means, let the Pima detectives, because it still is their case until you have an obvious cross-state line type of indication here. So the FBI, if they're offering an offering, I would hope the sheriff's department says, we'll take everything you have to offer. But if that's not true, and they are keeping their information close to the vest, it's a problem for the investigation and very narrow sight.
There is something very fresh today. I'm going to play it right now. So Savannah Guthrie released something on her Instagram. Now, this is not what we've seen typically. This is not her making a plea, but it's a clip from the Today Show from this morning that she put out there, and it's talking about anonymity in terms of offering a tip and the reward money. Let's watch this for a moment.
FBI go about guaranteeing that people who do reach out, that they actually remain anonymous?
Yeah, so Craig, experts say that let's say you submit a tip, it qualifies for the reward, you want to remain anonymous, you can then pick up that reward at a neutral location that's decided, often a place like a post office. That reward will likely be given to you in cash, and all you have to do is show that unique PIN number that's associated with your tip. You do not need to show your ID. Experts say it is really not traceable and no questions asked.
I go about guaranteeing.
Okay, so this is what aired on the Today Show today, and Phil Waters. I'll play it for 1 second with no audio, because at the bottom you'll see Savannah's the one that's written this 1-800-CALL-FBI. You can see it's from her Instagram page. Tips can be anonymously and likely paid in cash, as explained here. And then at the bottom it says, "Be the one who brings her home." Be the one who brings her home. Now, Phil Waters, clearly it doesn't say be the one who brings her home alive or not. I think she's a deeply religious woman, and I think she has faith that it's still possible she could be alive. But it seems like, Savannah now, whereas in the early days was kind of going off some law enforcement scripted things. Here, she's now just putting out a post from the Today Show explaining how you could get reward money anonymously and still wants to bring her mother home. I mean, you've got to credit her, because she's going through absolute hell. She's being tortured in real time on television, and she seems to be doing absolutely everything she can to get Nancy back home. But what do you make of this move here to explain the sort of the anonymous way to get reward money, Phil Waters?
Well, it's a very good move on her part. It's certainly sincere, heartfelt, and it's explaining to whoever might have information that this is the way this would be handled. So, we've, in my career, I've dealt with Crime Stoppers over and over again. And I've mentioned it on these discussions that when they say anonymous, that's exactly what this means. And now the caveat to this is that the tip has to lead to an arrest and a conviction. So it's not just you call in and say, "Hey, I got the big tip," and it leads nowhere and they're going to pay you some money. That just isn't going to happen. So there has to be an end game to the tip, and it has to arrest and conviction. Those are the key elements of it. And just as you showed it, when those payments are made, they're given a number, they go to a spot, and boom, here's the number, and they're paid the money, and that's it. Completely anonymous. I mean, I guess they could send whomever, even the person that made the tip. They could send their agent, so to speak, to go pick up the money. So the anonymity of this thing is incredible. We couldn't even get the identity of tipsters calling in from Crime Stoppers as the detectives in the case, unless the tipster relented and decided that they wanted to speak with us one-on-one. So it's good that she's putting it out there, and whoever is sitting out there, that someone's out there that's got the information. I mean, someone's got it. Mm-hmm. And so let's hope somebody responds. I mean, we're talking north of 1.2 million now is the reward.
Yeah.
So let's hope that loosens up some lips.
We've got some buzz kills here at STS. Look at this. Wouldn't they have to pay taxes on that?
I can answer that.
Does IRS
really?
Does IRS tax reward money, Scott Duffy? Please, do they? Because now I'm not helping. If I'm only getting $658,000, I'm not helping. But go ahead, Scott Duffy.
Yeah. So this is where having paid a lot of money over the years, specifically to people who wanted to. If they didn't remain anonymous, they would be known to me, but they would be not known to anybody else. So we have what is called AG guidelines or AG admonishments. And that basically says, as an agent, I'm giving you money. And it's a lot of money. And I'm not going to follow you or see what you do or don't do with that money. However, I have to advise you, you are receiving this money and you should report it like you're, any other gambling or any other type of income. It is income. And so I then write time and date that I turned over the money, provided those what we call admonishments, and you walk away. There will never be any follow-up. And the IRS,
Wait, Scott, you didn't send them a 1099 at the end of the year?
Did not send them a 1099. So there is no record other than internally for us of whoever is given that money. And so that is that.
I think Scott is sort of giving you a wink that you don't maybe have to necessarily report it. You
Always report.
Always report. Good old America, always taxing us for all of our money. I had a conversation about taxes just yesterday, and it was not pleasant. Phil Waters, back to you. Just back to this 5,000 to 10,000 hours of video. I'm just curious, what comprises all this video? I mean, are we talking like surveillance video from the neighborhood? Are we talking surveillance video from Walmart's? All these things put together? Again, it seems like many hours of videos. I'm just wondering what the source is, where these videos are coming from or being compiled from.
Well, the direct answer is yes. It's wherever you look. They had the the Advanced Digital Forensics team from the FBI. That this is what they do. They had them down there, and those guys know exactly what they're doing, and they know where to look. So I would imagine these hours and hours of videos are a result of their hard work, would be my guess. They are focused on that. That is their deal. Now, I don't know, Scott, they don't actually do the review of the videos, right? They just collect them. Is that right?
Yeah. Traditionally the DIVERT team, the digital video recovery team, they're trained, and they're both we have task forces where they're police officers and agents,
right,
that are trained enough to go and be able to download any system and not have to figure out or toy around with instructions. Get that video, and then it gets just proper chain of custody, and then get it to those who are going to be viewers.
So that's similar to what we did. Our forensics lab, we had a digital forensics lab at HPD, and they would go recover the DVR or whatever the piece of equipment was that held the digital content. They would offload it and then provide it to us, and we would be the ones that would actually go in and start the review of the videos. So there's a lot of it out there, and I'm hoping that Walmart, I'm hoping that a large part of this is going to be Walmart stuff, because Walmart, these big stores like this, they have a system where they can tell what was purchased, where it was purchased, how much of it was purchased, the date and time, and so forth and so on, and have video at whatever register that was where the purchase was made. So, but the problem is, how far back do you go? And if you go back 6 months and they're having to, their system is having to run down all of this stuff. So again, and they're accumulating a lot of different things, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have purchased similar backpacks, face masks, so forth and so on. So they're having to chronicle all of those purchases and then then they match them up to the video, and then provide all of that information to the detectives and the agents involved in this investigation. So all I can say is, I'll use the word again, it's just a very even the the gathering of the evidence is tedious. Everything about it is a very time-consuming process, and you've got to be careful about hitting the wrong button and deleting a bunch of stuff. So, I mean, these guys that are doing it, though, these FBI folks and whatever forensics capability they have at Pima County, that's what they're paid to do. And I think you're seeing the result of their efforts in this amount of digital evidence.
So one of the things that broke on our show last night that's still very significant, and I'll go to Scott Duffy first on this here, because I think the FBI will have the tools, but after 26 days as of yesterday, a neighbor so they were looking within basically a 2-mile perimeter, and suddenly last night, Fox News Digital gets video. Shout out to Mike Ruiz, who's a reporter there. They get this video from a neighbor who's 2.5 miles out, and it's a very dark neighborhood, and there are some major, by Tucson standards, some major roads, but these cars were driving at a high rate of speed exactly in that time frame around 2-something in the morning when this could have happened, and they were taking back roads to possibly not be seen on the main roads. And this is the video. Already people have identified one of these cars, I think, is a Honda CRV, and another one is a Kia Soul. Oh, I didn't know we had audio on this. But so you see these cars going by here. Scott Duffy, my question to you, this is like that glove that was found 2 miles away that ended up essentially being a nothing burger. But these cars are interesting at this time. And again, I met the COE. I lived in Tucson for 5 years. It's a very sleepy town, particularly this area of town, particularly at this time in the early morning. So it is raising eyebrows. But Scott Duffy, what does the FBI do? I mean, this is dark, blurry-ish video. What do you do to affirmatively identify the vehicles and try to get a license plate number? Because if you can get that, now you are able to knock on doors, right?
Yeah. So just looking at this, I mean, that's pretty good video. And I have seen worse video where our lab has been able to do wonders with it. Now, it's not like TV where all of a sudden you just, drill down on it and get rid of the light, and all of a sudden you have a tag. Now, one day we may be there, but I had a car doing probably 60, 70 miles per hour past the camera at night. And so what you're seeing as the cars go by, when they put their brake lights on, that does not help. And it's nice when the reflective from the license plate will show up as opposed to what you see there, some sort of brake light. And that's just going to distort anything. Now, there is equipment, and the FBI has it. And then if they don't, they will share with their law enforcement partners, Secret Service, et cetera, and be able to do as much as they can to get as close without becoming so pixelated, and then be able to say, could we at least identify a car and a color? Because when you start putting, for example, a Honda CRV, and then you're like, okay, so I have a Honda CRV. Is it black? Is it gray? Is it gold? Is it this? Now you're trying to put it into a system and say, what are all my Honda CRVs? Then you got to do it county by county or state by state. And you'd be surprised how much information you can get that's not going to help you. But it's good for later. It's good for, okay, we've identified a subject. Oh, he happens to have a Honda CRV. Let's see if that matches. So from what I see, maybe you can get a partial on a license plate after you kind of play around with it. But this video is probably more helpful for later, a comparison of some sort, as opposed to identifying a specific car.
Yeah. I want to get back to this. For now, I'll take it off because I want to ask Phil about the perimeter, but we just got a super chat here. Shout out to Breezy Prono. Thoughts? Why would they still be? This is coming up a lot lately, Phil Waters. But why would they still be holding Annie Guthrie's car? Yet the sheriff's posted that family spouses are cleared. Why still hold the car? Is it strategic to say they are cleared? So if anybody in the family is involved, they would be sloppy, thinking they're safe. I mean, is it ever a tactic to say someone is cleared when they're not cleared? And I mean, the bigger question is, why even go out there? Oh, what's going on here? I've got, are you guys hearing that? Hang on one second. We've got two streams going at once, so I need to just give me 1 second here, guys.
Breaking news, Joe.
We've got two trials, and I didn't know that one would bleed into the other. We're busy at STS, but no, the other stream right now is Corey Richins accused of murdering her husband with 5 times a lethal dose of fentanyl. But Phil Waters, what's going on? I mean, when that guy said that, people are like, well, why are you clearing somebody if you don't have a suspect? But now they're still apparently holding her car. Help us sort through this, Phil Waters.
Well, I'm a little conflicted about why the sheriff came out and said that we've cleared all the family members. I don't know. I mean, a little premature because he had said nobody's been cleared. Then all of a sudden he comes out and says they've been cleared. Now, in terms of them holding the car, they may be holding the car because the family has not gone and picked it up. So once they're through processing a car, when I got through processing a car, it gets released and you notify the owners and you can come get it. And sometimes those cars will sit because the owners don't come and get it. They don't want to come and get it, or they don't have the resources to come and get it. So although they're not charged anything. So who knows why the car is still there. And I don't think one has anything to do with the other because they have processed the car. So they're absolutely, it's just taking up room in their impound lot. So there's no, and I can tell you that we called it the dart lot. Whenever those cars are over there, they want to get those suckers out of there because there are cars constantly coming through there to be processed in the print stall. And once you process them, you want to get them out of there and get rid of them, make room for the next one. So I don't know that there's anything suspicious or anything going on with the fact that they still got Annie's car. There may be a reason why.
Yeah, and Phil, just this is what I wanted to come back to here. This is the video I was just showing Scott. Now this is 2.5 miles out. Do you have to rethink if you're the lead detective on this, lead investigator? Do you need to start rethinking, the perimeter? Do you have to go much further out now because now you're getting something that could potentially be something from 2.5 miles out when you're only looking within 2 miles? I mean, how do you reassess where you're looking and how far out you're looking?
Well, so what we're being told by somebody that a neighbor or somebody provided this and law enforcement did not go and retrieve it. Is that what we're being told?
So a neighbor apparently gave this to Fox News Digital. And then last night while we were on air, the FBI and Pima County detectives showed up at this person's house to presumably retrieve the video. And it's odd also because, look, it's a lot easier for a single independent journalist who's on the streets of Tucson to get from point A to point B than it is maybe for law enforcement. So, they got the video. The bottom line is though, it's 2.5 miles away. So do you have to start now? Do those FBI agents and officers, do they have to now canvass that whole area saying, hey, give us all your video?
Well, as a result of this, I would think they're reevaluating that. But, I mean, I don't know this area, but it looks like it's, houses are kind of spread apart. It's kind of dark. I mean, there's these roadways into this subdivision of this neighborhood. I would have thought that you would go as far out as your digital evidence would take you, if that makes sense. I mean, I think you'd have gone out to where, say, the next convenience store is, or the next gas pumps are, where there might be cameras, that you would go out that far. You would kind of let the availability of possible video determine your perimeter, how far you go out. So I'm not sure how they arbitrarily decided we're going to go out 2 miles and not go any further. So I don't know. Were it me, and I'm just saying, I would have gone as far out as my digital evidence would have taken me. And so if that meant you go out, you run across, you keep layering your perimeter, expanding it, and then once you start gathering that information, and then when you get to the point where you're far enough out, and I don't know what that would be, it would be determined by what you're gathering, then perhaps you stop it at 4 miles, and that's just where you happen to stop, because there doesn't look like there's any probative video evidence beyond that point, because now you're just getting into bigger traffic areas and that kind of thing. So I mean, I don't know. That's just what you have to make in the course of an investigation, that decision you have to make. But regarding the videos, I had a righteous kidnapping that was the woman's car was stolen. She was stuffed in the trunk, and the bad guy takes off with her in the trunk and then went through a Whataburger. So we had a bunch of, and she had an OnStar system. So we know where this person went. And there were videos of him ordering in the Whataburger, in the window at Whataburger. So we took those videos, and we had NASA enhance the videos. And they explained to us, and Scott's alluded to this, it's not like television. It's not all of a sudden, boom, you get a license plate, or you get this because you've got lights and all those factors. But there's only a certain amount of pixels, and you cannot add pixels to the video to enhance what's in the video. So you're limited by the quality of the video camera itself. And so these things here, I'm sure they have done. I'm sure you guys, your FBI guys, do the enhancement stuff, Scott, right? And I would be, they'll probably get a better outlook of the car itself, the profile of the car, but license plates, I don't know. That glare off that plate is, especially when they put the brake lights on, and then you've got license plate lights. So, but the enhancing process is pretty cool once you see it, because it does provide you a little bit more detail.
Yeah. I mean, Scott Duffy, to that point, without giving away trade secrets, how intricate are the tools the FBI has to be able to get a license plate, even with brake lights, and enhance things? I mean, you've got these, and I mean this as a term of endearment, these tech nerds within the FBI that can do some pretty cool things, but how cool are they?
Yeah, so I'll take it back 8 years, because that's when I was last in and I got to see it. So I would go down to our lab and say, I want to see what you can do, because we're all thinking in the street, not having the technology. It's like, oh, if TV can do it, it can be done. So you watch your video, you see the experts put it into a computer. I'll speak in as I would understand it. You're just seeing different filters applied to where all of a sudden a light is removed, but it's not like all of a sudden the picture shows up. It's just you're able to see more, and so you have different filters applied, and I get to see it real time with the experts applying whatever tools that a software allows them to see further into. So thereby, just as we can zoom in, zoom out, and the more you zoom, it becomes so pixelated that you don't know what you're looking at. So you're going one step closer to that image through different filters where different lights are tried to remove. And then it is a best guess scenario. I don't know if anybody in that can say, I will testify that that is a Honda CRV, 1996. No, I don't even think today we're there unless they're able to capture that license plate, such as an LPR license plate reader. So it is pretty cool to see. 8 years ago, and I imagine we're so much more advanced. However, I don't think enough to where as we saw those headlights or the brake lights, that you can remove that, change the direction, and all of a sudden come up with a license plate. I don't think we're there, but it is amazing to watch with the software tools how they can make something, at least to give an investigator. I think you're looking for either a Honda or this car. And then I've gone to dealerships to say, what do you think? With the best picture that's given. And ultimately they give you a good still to say, okay, this is the best we got. Now go see what you can do with it.
By the way, we got about 20 minutes left. If you have questions for Phil, who spells his name F-I-L, put in a triple F. If you have questions for Soothing Scott, put in triple S. And I'll try to get as many questions as possible. But Scott Duffy, I'll come back to you on this one. Dottie Newkirk, I think we are giving too much credence to the timeline we have, particularly the 41 minutes in the house. With no timestamps, how do we know the videos we've seen occurred at 147? Followed by this comment: timeline from the family must be independently verified. Otherwise, it's just their word, and you can't believe it unless there's proof from other sources like metadata backing up the mobile device. You have to be careful as an investigator not to get too caught up on your timeline. I know how important timelines are, but they could potentially change with changing evidence or information, Scott Duffy. So how do you approach timelines?
Yeah, for great questions, and totally agree. Timeline's important, and thereby the video that we've seen of this one or both two individuals, I have not seen anybody say that it's on the date of the kidnapping or the day before, the day, whatever. And so thereby you can make assumptions, but until there is a timestamp and a date, that video is good, but it means nothing in a courtroom, because you can have somebody say, hey, that video was weeks before or whatever. That was Halloween night. That was whatever. So it's helpful, but unless, Google is going to be able to say, hey, now we have a timestamp for you that was at this date and that time, great, then it is helpful. With regards to the Bluetooth or the disconnection from the pacemaker to the device, those are helpful, but we don't know that the person is gone 2 minutes after, 3 minutes after. Did they stay an hour after? Because we have nothing from the point of, so you have the timestamp of a garage door opening, and then we're going with family saying, I dropped off Nancy about this time. So the door going up, the garage door going up and coming down, as your viewer said, corroborates, hey, when were you there? I think I was there at 9:30, but the door opens up at 9:48. Okay, then I was there at 9:48. And video, I have obtained many hours of videos that their time was all off. And that comes from your manager saying, hey, we never turned the clocks back or turned the clocks forward, and we're off, because then you would do a real-time test. So you would look at the video, you would capture a recording, and you'd be like, oh yeah, it's off a half hour, it's off 3 hours. And so all that has to come into play, and all that affects the investigative timeline.
Phil Waters, this is a weird story. Authorities apparently identified a quote-unquote weird man who was arrested outside of Nancy Guthrie's home after he drove past the property somewhere between 50 and 100 times. This, I think, happened last night. Guy was arrested on a DUI charge. I have no idea. Been named as Antonio de Jesus Pena Campos, seen in a blue vehicle making his way past the dwelling multiple times. This is last night on February 26th. It's just odd. Apparently, he had some sort of photo or something of Nancy Guthrie, but clearly, you have to take this guy in and I'm sure question him and clear him. Is this just adding to the circus-like atmosphere? How seriously do you have to take something like this?
Well, sure it is. I mean, drunk and stupid, that's just not a good combination when you're, he's out there rolling around and decides he needs to constantly go up and down the street. So he got popped, and I'm sure they're having a discussion or had a discussion with him about what are you doing, and wait until he sobers up the next morning and let him explain it again. So, I mean, this kind of a case with this kind of notoriety and high profile to it brings out the nuts. It's just the nature of the beast, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Phil Waters, another thing that has been confirmed, at least I believe by Brian Enton of News Nation. Scott Duffy types in their nice suits with the FBI showed up at the home the other day. I think it was 2 days ago. And word on the street is they're getting ready to release it back to the family. But along with the people in nice suits were other people in nice suits who are reported and now confirmed by Brian Enton to be prosecutors from Pima County. So my question is, if you don't have suspects, if you don't have a criminal case, if you don't have much of anything, what are prosecutors from the county doing at Nancy Guthrie's house? Phil Waters.
Is that for me?
That's for you.
I don't want to cut in on Scott's time here. I get accused of that. So
gotta be careful with the ratio.
Yeah, I got to be careful. I don't find that terribly unusual because I have read where
Jackie's correcting me. They're U.S. attorneys.
Well, that's what I understood them to be, AUSAs out there, and they were wanting to see the scene because I have read that I think it was yesterday the house is being turned back over to the family. So I don't find it terribly odd that the AUSAs that may be involved in the prosecution of this case. As of now, it's still the county's case, but with all the FBI involvement, so forth and so on, there may be when they catch this person or persons, there may be a way to elevate the state charges to a federal charge of some kind, especially if it was in fact, if it chose to be that the person who did this or persons who did this, that was their intent, was to kidnap her, if that's what this turns out to be. So there's a lot of components of this thing, and I don't find it very strange at all that the AUSAs are out there taking a look at the scene before they turn it back over to the family.
Yeah. Scott Duffy on Fox News saw an interesting interview, and I mentioned this the other day. This was a digital forensics expert who was talking about the importance, and I think they actually worked on the Brian Kohberger case and talked about the important, everyone's always looking at digital phone activity, but she was talking about the lack of digital phone activity, describing sort of the digital blackout theory. So she's like, if you can find a device that was dark for a period of time and then on and then dark for a period of time, that says more than just being on. Is this the sort of thing? I mean, everyone and their mother literally have a cell phone. So I don't know how you even narrow this down, but when could something like that be important, looking at, digital devices to see if they were shut off for, blocks of periods of time at a time?
Yeah, I would as an investigator, I would say that would be more helpful once you have a phone and you have an identity of somebody, as opposed to, okay, we have everything that was turned on at the time. Let's just say it was 10,000 phones were hitting off the towers that would hit off around Nancy Guthrie's house. So now you have to go through and say, okay, let's exclude law enforcement, first responders, neighbors, and then let's see what's foreign to that territory. Wow, I can't even imagine saying, well, let's go back 30 days and look at the pattern of, hey, these phones are hitting at 2 a.m. And the phone that we saw hitting at 2 a.m., we went back and then realized it was turned off at 2 a.m. the day of. To me, that's a tremendous amount of work. However, when you have a pattern as someone like Brian Koberger, where, okay, his phone is always up, and everybody has a pattern. So I leave my phone on all day, all night. So if they can go back and say, yeah, Scott Duffy's right. He left it. He has his phone on 30 days straight. And, but guess what? On the day of that crime, he turned it off for 2 hours, and he's never done that before. Mm-hmm. So that's, to me, in that regard, it is useful. However, trying to use this as a tool to identify, hey, what phones are turned off that are normally turned on? Is it possible? Sure. But considerable amount of time and effort, I would say that's something that would be done on the back end when this goes cold, if it ever does, to where it's like, okay, we have a considerable amount of data we haven't gone through. Now let's start to go through that because everything else has been exhausted.
Thank you for that. Phil Waters, to you, there was just a comment up there I was trying to find, but it's basically asking a question that we've seen before, which is, if it's a burglary gone bad, which has been the theory espoused by some law enforcement officers, then why not take anything? Also, does anyone know, this question was asked of me via email, and I put it out on Twitter, and no one seemed to have an answer, whether or not Nancy Guthrie's cane was taken from her house, because I would personally am interested in that. But Phil, if it is a, as NYPD or say a burg gone bad, why not take anything?
Before I answer that, let me say something real quick here about the phone stuff.
Yeah, please.
I had a case where we brought the FBI in. It had a federal nexus to it because there was an AUSA that may have been involved in this thing. And we did a tower dump. We had video of the killing, and we had video of the person who had gone into the business prior to him walking through and shooting 3 people, killing them, all 3 of them. And he was on the phone, or he appeared to be on the phone. And the FBI came in and did a tower dump on that tower that was focused into that area. Now, the problem you have, it was a very busy area. The problem is that you may have 100,000 phone calls. But they did the tower dump, and the agent that I was working with that was doing all of the analysis, he was excited when he came in, and he would give me updates. And so a month or so went by, and he came in and was very excited to say that he's narrowed it down to 50,000 calls. And then a month later, it was, I've got it down to 20,000 calls. And I'm like, great. To me, it boggles my mind that whatever it is he's doing. So in this particular case, the approach I would take is that you've got a time frame. And this is not a very congested area. And that time of the night, then you dump that tower, you see the number of phone calls or phones that were active as they came into the area. And then you want to go past the event or the time frame that you believe those bad guys left. And let's see what phones went off for that period of time. And then once that period of time went by, what phones came back on. And that would be the way I would analyze that. And I think you don't have the numbers that you've got on that tower that you would in Houston. So that's the approach I would take. And but it is, regardless, it is still a very tedious process to analyze that stuff. And even if, let's say there were only 10,000 calls on that night at that time, it's still going to take some time to go through all those. Now, regards to the other question about why didn't they take anything? Well, we're being told they didn't take anything. We don't know what anything means exactly. And we don't know what knowledge they may have had that caused them to go in there. And presumably we're going to steal something. And then something went horribly wrong and got them way off their goal. So number one, I don't know for certain that they did not take anything. I think that's kind of been going around. And the sheriff may put that out at the very beginning, but again, there may be some things that we're not being told as we should not be told, that we want to hold. And when we get the right person who's done the wrong thing in custody and we get them in an interview room, we want them to be able to tell us what was taken from that home. And we're the only ones that know it. So I'm not sure that the premise there is, at this point in time, I've not seen where we know that as a certainty.
Thank you, Phil Waters. Got about 5 minutes left, a little bit shorter than we're used to, but as my dad used to say, short and sweet, and that's what we've got going on here. Scott Duffy, interesting question from Vicky. Can you sort of fill in some of the questions of the timeline using the shadow off of a full moon? There was apparently a full moon that night. Is that junk science, or is that amazing science because you're using the moon? It's been around for a while, and the shadow that the moon creates, is that something that some nerdy tech guy in the FBI can take out a protractor and figure out exactly what time of day it is based on the positioning of the moon in the shadow?
I tell you what, if somebody was able to do that and convinced me and said, I will testify to it, I would be open to it, but I don't know.
I'd be open to it too. This is the part of the show, I've now been covering this for 27 days. And even when I was away, I was looking obsessively to see this. I am surprised that 27 days in, this is still a major story on traditional news everywhere you turn. This is the news cycle has gone down to an hour in some cases. And this has crazy legs. So, Scott Duffy, what the hell is going on is my final question. When you step away from this is just the weirdest story. This is America's sweetheart. It used to be Katie Couric. Now it's Savannah Guthrie, the biggest morning talk show in America. The mother suddenly disappears. You've got the famous daughter making pleas. You couldn't write a movie like this if you wanted to. What is going on? Is this a vendetta? Do you think this is someone who's got an issue with Savannah? It's just so weird. Where do we stand today in terms of your thought process?
Yeah, and twofold, because I do know I've seen stories with, I wish the FBI and other law enforcement agencies that are tasked with these investigations would put as much resources, money, etc., into other missing persons, etc. And of course, if we could do that, by all means, it always comes down to resources and money. So I say that, yes, it has the celebrity portion to it, and that gets a lot of attention, as you had just well said, Joel. But from the investigative side, look at Phil and the many, and I have seen so many others with regards to their expertise in kidnappings and murders and robberies, etc. This has so many anomalies, And so thereby, I think that it is not your classic type of crime with, okay, the whodunit, because there are so many, not so many, but there are distinct possibilities of, was this a target event? It makes sense that it was a targeted event. It really does, especially if they show us that the video, the two different, whether it's the same individual or not, that they are two different dates and two different timestamps. So you do have that casing, which would support, I'm looking to get you. So ultimately is, why am I looking to get you? To do something to somebody else and to say, you know, revenge, you really upset me. And now look what pain we have caused you. And thereby we have completed our mission. Or is it truly we're targeting you because of what you have in that house? But then it went bad. For example, you know, even though it's early in the morning, I have seen where people have been held in their house at 3 a.m. in the morning. Why? Because you're going to get me access to the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you have. I've seen this in cash checking establishments. They kidnap the family, hold them for hours. Law enforcement is none the wiser. The place opens up, and then it's a very targeted, let's take you, and then we're going to release you. And so is this something that was, hey, we believe you have lots of money, we're going to get you, we're going to hold you, and then it went bad. So that's why I have these experiences with these types of crimes, but it didn't go bad. And so thereby the result is you got your money, or you didn't get your money, we made an arrest. This has air marks of several different types, which makes law enforcement, you know, have them scratching their heads.
Look at this. Isn't it nice to have Phil and Scott back? The love is still there. Phil Waters, thank you for that, Scott Duffy. Final one-word answer, Scott Duffy. Will this case be solved?
Yes.
Phil Waters, when this case is solved and they arrest a person or persons, are we going to say to ourselves, I knew it? Or are we going to say to ourselves, whoa, I didn't see that one coming?
Well, you got two camps. You got the ones that'll go, I knew it. And then you got the other ones that go, boy, that's a head scratcher. So, you know, and this is kind of one of these things. This is like being a baseball player, right? You only have, you know, if you've only got to be good half the time, right? So if you've got a 500% batting average, you're getting paid a lot of money. And so it's, some people are going to they're going to claim victory, and the other ones are going to go, wow, this is a puzzlement. But I'm kind of in the camp of, I'm not going to be surprised either way it works out. So my sense tells me, though, it's going to be a simple explanation when they catch this person, and it'll be easily understood. And I'm kind of got to leave it there. So I because they're, you know, to say that it's a puzzlement, the person who did this or persons who did this, they know why they did it. And it may be a puzzlement to us, but it's not to them. It's very clear why they did what they did. And so I just don't find it's going to be it'll be an interesting outcome. Let me use that term. It'll be interesting whichever way it goes.
Are you surprised we're at day 27?
No, not really. You know, and I've seen some comments where people have said, if this guy's so stupid, then how's he getting away with it? Well, I'm telling you what, sometimes stupid is better than being sly. So, you know, this person is kind of bumbled into remaining anonymous out there. So, and done a lot of things. And let's hope that one of those little things that they slipped up on or may have slipped up on, that's that's what's going to bring this about. But I can tell you that when this person is arrested, it's going to be the result of just good old-fashioned detective work. The detectives, the agents involved in this thing, I'm telling you, they are hitting the bricks and they are leaving no stone unturned. So I'm confident. I'm like Scott. I'm confident that there will be an end to this. We'll know who did it, and then it's going to be for Scott and us. If we were involved in this, then it's get him in the interview room and let's get the whole story.
Two of the best. You've got retired FBI Special Agent Scott Duffy. You've got retired Houston homicide detective Phil Waters, who's investigated over 400 homicides. We had Kurt Dabb on last night, a retired homicide detective with the Pima County Sheriff's Department. He spoke very openly. He's obsessive about this case and then had to step away. He's dealing with PTSD from being a homicide detective and seeing awful things. So we need to remember Nancy and bring Nancy home. We also need to remember these guys on the front lines who are always trying to, they're on a search for the truth, as Phil Waters says. And along that search, sometimes they see awful things and it affects them in very bad ways. So next time someone badmouths a police officer, why don't you tell them about Kurt Dabb and these fellas? And everyone have a great weekend. Great to have Phil and Scott. They're going to come back the last Friday of every month. You get Karm the first 3 Fridays. We've got Corey Richens on the other channel right now. And love you all. Have a wonderful weekend. Love you, Houston. Love you, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, except Governor Josh Shapiro. Get on Ellen Greenberg, Shapiro, and maybe I'll change my mind. It's always shady in Philadelphia, but it's always sunny in Tucson. Let's bring Nancy Guthrie home.